Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Grenada Matters. I'm with my co-host as always from the Grenada Empowerment Movement, the man himself, Earl J Maitland. Earl, how are you doing?
I'm fine, Ingram. How are you?
I'm good.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
So what's been
Yeah.
going on with yourself?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
What's been going on with yourself?
Ingram?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
How have you been?
Yeah, I actually have been fine. I have been continuing doing what I have started to do here in Grenada. It has been a constant battle. One which we must not give up on. In order to inspire others to ensure that the changes we wish to achieve will actually occur. It has been tough. It is a journey. One we expect will not come easily, but I'm there. I am there. I'm hopeful.
So every week I introduce you GEM. Every week I do it. I give you the big praise. I bring you in the room. But I thought, you know what, this week we should really talk about exactly what you do. So people outside of Grenada might not know. People inside of Grenada might not even know what you do either. So let's talk about, first of all, what it means, GEM, Grenada Empowerment Movement.
So, GEM is actually the Grenada Empowerment Movement. It was started by myself in 2010. It was registered as a charity, non-governmental, non-profit organization in Grenada. As a young person in Grenada, I noticed that many persons faced various challenges, and these challenges, most of which came from a lack of proper education and so on. With a lack of education, persons will be most times unable to actually um, reason about situations properly. So they would end up in a lot of dilemmas, which could have persons who lack their education, as it is in Grenada right now. Um, it's hard to get a job, so your back would be against a wall basically, because who would employ you if we have 20 20 persons applying for one job, and we have, like, let's say 10 people. Half of those persons, they would have been certified after their examinations. The other 10 who is not, they most likely would not be considered. So the opportunity of earning a proper livelihood, of getting a salary and so on, it would be excluded from them, the other 10 people, which is really a sad situation. And I do understand, and I understood at the time that we had so many persons in poverty in Grenada who have problems getting out. Even looking at the situations where persons would like to send their children to school, but they do not have the finances to afford the school fees or to afford the school books, to afford this. It was basically, it is a tragedy, in my opinion, and I aimed to change that, slowly but surely inspire persons to get on board, to be his or her brother's keeper, as the saying goes, without just speaking the words but actually doing the actions, to ensure that even though we are not in the best situations, we will still use whatever resources we have, as limited as it is, to assist someone who is in a worse position.
So we're now in 2020. You said you started this in 2010. In
Yeah.
the 10-year span,
Mhm.
I think maybe COVID's kind of knocked you off course a bit.
It
But
has.
let's say in the last 10 years, overall,
Uh-huh.
how do you feel you've grown as an organization or as a party?
So basically, so they, for the organization, I believe that, I can say that I am satisfied with the work that I have been doing, especially as the assistance was not really there. I am satisfied. It doesn't mean that the journey has ended, or I'm not hoping to achieve much, much more as I started off. But we as Gem, I was able to get a lot of changes in Grenada, to various things as the charity organization. It evolved, sorry, into a political organization 7 years later. I partake in the last general election. And the reason being, as a charity organization, a non-profit organization that actually wanted to assist those in authority with bettering the living conditions and the lives of Grenadians. um, I noticed that persons in authority felt the need to keep our people, our taxpayers, to keep them away from justice. I noticed that they felt the need to keep them in poverty. They feel the need to keep them away from being educated and so on. And I believe my experiences would have guided me into recognizing that it was all, the for the purpose of getting easy votes, having political rallies and so on without speaking on policies, because persons may not even understand properly what an election is, or the amount of power that we are putting in the hands of corrupt individuals. So basically, what I noticed, and what we continue to notice over the election period, what would happen, instead of persons in government or aspiring to be in government speaking on policies and so on to better the livelihoods of our people, what they actually do is purchase alcohol or a beer, or hand out some $50 or so on, or some windows to persons who in turn would feel obligated to vote for them because they are not aware of their rights as citizens of this country. So one thing I also focused on was educating our people as to the rights that they have as citizens of this country. It began with simply just passing on the knowledge that I have of the Grenada Constitution, among many other laws, for instance, from the Employment Act of Grenada, which is known as the Labor Code, the Police Act, and various other laws, where persons would be affected on a daily basis.
So, what inspired you? I mean, I know you've set it up, but what really inspired you? What was the trigger moment you said, "This something has to change. I have to do something about this"?
Mhm. Okay. So it was a journey. It has been a journey. It's an ongoing journey at this time. What inspired me was the way that I grew up. My mom was a nurse. My mom is a retired nurse, I should say. My mom had a big part to play, a big role in the choices that I continue to make. She has taught me that we need to assist persons, right? Um, and what has happened in Graham is I was also inspired by my oldest sister, who, when I was younger, she would bring me on to fundraisers that she would have to assist even the blind folks in Grenada. So she would actually go and have yard sales and so on, raise funds and pass it on to those people. So a lot of the motorcades that persons would be aware that I'm doing for the Kidney Foundation and so on. This has not started with Earl Maitland. It actually is something that was that I adopted from my older sister. My mom always instilled that principle of being our brother's keeper, and this is exactly what I'm doing. It's God's will that we come here and we appreciate people, right? Life is actually short. It's not only about making money or driving a fancy car, having a big house. It's about the way we treat people. Our reward is in heaven. It's not in Grenada. Now, after going on to that journey in Gram, I did go um, as the Grenada Empowerment Movement charity organization, recognizing that, we have had so many repeat offenders at Her Majesty's prison. And that's in Richmond Hill for the persons who might not be aware, those who are looking on from outside. So our only prison on island is called Her Majesty's Prison at Richmond Hill. Now I noticed that there have been many persons that we all know, friends, family members, neighbors, and so on. Many persons go to Her Majesty's prison as repeat offenders, some for even the pettiest of crimes. So I decided, to do my part um, as a citizen of this country, as a previous scout leader, as a previous Cub Scout, as a scout, as the son of a nurse and the brother of someone who continues to assist the population. So I went to the prison and I decided, you know what, I'm going to make a proposal to them, seeing that I have had years of experience as a mathematics teacher. I would go to the prison and allow the men to know that I understand that personalities are different. I understand that circumstances are different. So we do not necessarily look down on the persons who have been incarcerated. What we try to do is to rehabilitate them and to reassure them that we do care about them, that we do love them, that we do understand that mistakes are made and mistakes does not guarantee the direction of your life. Changes could be made, and I started teaching up there. Of course, at my course, twice per week. And I developed a relationship with the inmates. And what I noticed was many of the persons up there, they did not have the academic education. So mathematics would have seemed very challenging for them. So what I did in I spoke to a young guy and I asked him to do a music program at the prison with me. So in the mathematics class, we had about 15, I had about 15 men there in the mathematics class. And this is out of 400 and something inmates up there, male inmates, 450 something to 70 something inmates,
Wow.
15%. Now, um, when I got this guy, Mr. Philip, Dashiki Philip, to come and do the music classes up there. Our music class actually had like 50 something persons. We taught them how to read, write, and play music with the hopes that, they would feel a sense of purpose when they get out of Her Majesty's prison. At least they might be able to start a band or something or join a band or something, because coming out from a facility such as that, to get a job in Grenada, sometimes there's no forgiveness, and a police record is most times warranted. And if one has a police record, it's almost impossible to get a job. So we were trying to, get these individuals to a point where they would have that sense of independence and they might be able to make ends meet by themselves, to assist them with their rehabilitation process. Because I believe, not only do I believe, I know based on my experience, the system at Her Majesty's prison is a clear and present dangerous failure. And it continues to be, so eventually in Graham, the relationship went on. And there was a certain level of trust that was developed.
Hmm.
No matter how many persons might say, everybody that has been convicted of a crime in Grenada or wherever in the world is a convict or a hardcore criminal. That is not the case. As we have unfolded, we have unraveled the injustice in our Grenadian system, how many individuals have perverted justice in Grenada. I
Mhm.
assure you that I am aware that there are many persons at Her Majesty's prison who do not need to be there. And there are many persons who have been convicted of crimes in Grenada because they were unable to financially afford a legal representative, or because the defendant or the complainant, whoever, would have had close ties politically or in authority, and assistance would have been given for that person to ensure the capture, the illegal capture of one who's up there. So there are innocent persons up there, and I recognize that at a very young age. And we see it with many cases of police brutality.
Mhm.
We see it with even with the busmen and so on.
Yes.
It's a big joke, but that is the situation in Gram. So I developed this level of trust with the inmates, and they informed me of the conditions at Her Majesty's prison. And to my greatest shock at that time, in 2016, around there, I was informed by inmates that the prison conditions were extremely horrible. It was inhumane. We had, and we still do have at this time in 2020, cells, prison cells, where inmates are being forced and expected to be okay with defecating in buckets which are left in the cells overnight. And the persons who do not have family members to bring buckets, they are forced to defecate in plastic bags, which is left in the cell overnight with other inmates. So in some cells, we have up to 12 inmates in one cell. There's no water, there's no toilet, there's nothing in the cells. It's very inhumane. um, the water, as I was told in 2016, 2017, thereabout, by inmates, the water is turned off by the prison officials from 8 o'clock in the morning, and it goes on, I believe, 4 o'clock, just in time for them to have a shower and go back. Now, I was also reliably informed by inmates that the toilet bowls at Her Majesty's prison were broken. So the inmates during the day, throughout the day, when they were outside, they would actually have to squat over those toilets with the broken bowls and defecate over the feces of the prior person who used that toilet. So I then went on to speak to Mr. Leon Cornwall, who is, I believe, he's supposed to be a guidance counselor up there. And since that time, I was thrown out of Her Majesty's prison um, for speaking on the human rights of persons. Which is rather unfortunate. But that is how it is in Grenada. It's very challenging to do anything that is proper. Very challenging.
So, what was their purpose? What did they? What was the excuse of throwing you out? What was the excuse they gave you?
Right. So the excuse for throwing me out was that the prison academic term went on a break, and they would get back to me because they had to work on the timetables.
Mhm.
Right. This is what I was told by Mr. Leon Cornwall, and since then, for the last 3 years, I have gone to the Commissioner of Prisons, Mr. John Mitchell. I have spoken to Mr. Nichols, Mr. Cornwall, Mr. Stroud, just to get back in there to ensure that I could do my part as a citizen of Grenada, someone who knows persons who have been there, and someone who knows that there are innocent persons in there. Now, just last week, I was told by Mr. Leon Cornwall that he doesn't want to see me because I am now politically affiliated with my own party. And this is very absurd, Ingram. Very absurd. The failure that continues to happen not only in Her Majesty's prison, but in the entire system, the whole judiciary, the executive, the legislative, the whole system is a failure. and it needs to change. Um, it's terrible, and I can't understand. We have had, even before me, there were groups of persons who went to the prison and they spoke about the prison conditions, and nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. So years after, when I turned into an adult male, I went back to the prison and the same thing continued happening.
Yeah.
It's disgusting, especially to see that we have persons who would have started the Grenada Human Rights Organization and so on, who refuse to speak on certain matters, right, of that are recognized as human rights, and I can't understand the 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 um the I can't understand the position Mr. Cornwall has taken, because even now, though I have a political organization which is in the best interest of the people, inmates at Her Majesty's prison cannot vote. They cannot vote.
Hmm.
So even if I was to go to the prison and try to rectify all the damages that has been caused by these people, the inmates would not be able to vote for me. So it seems to me as though, with that understanding that the authorities in the prison would have, that they clearly do not want to honor the human rights of these persons, that they do not care, basically.
When he said you politically associated, does that mean that he's politically associated too, and he doesn't want to associate because you're
Mhm,
not with his political party?
mhm.
Then you are become a threat, and you're the opposition. Therefore, he doesn't want you in the prison cell.
Well, I would think so. I would think so because that is how it seems. Imagine um we have this gentleman who is collecting taxpayers' monies, right? This gentleman would now be considered a public servant. He's collecting the monies of taxpayers, and he is saying to me that he does not want to see me. And I had to explain to this man that he's a public servant at this point, and I am coming to a public facility to deal with business. I'm not coming to his personal ice cream shop, you know. So it is an embarrassment. This is what continues to happen in Grenada. Many times in speaking to you on lives, I have you know expounded on the fact that when you go to even the Public Service Commission, individuals there, instead of doing their jobs, will tell you who is just trying to seek justice. They will tell you that you need to seek asylum outside of your country, right? So the whole system in Gram is
Mhm.
corrupted. So
Corrupted.
based on that, I actually turned the charity organization into a political party. Now the reason for that would be clearly that I now understood at that point. I now understood that the reason why we have so much crime and so much injustice in Grenada is because it comes from the authority. They seem to be doing the best that they can to ensure that this perversion of justice continues. That we continue to have criminals and we continue to have persons who are looking for handouts, who do not know about their rights and so on. And this is the situation. So I took up that challenge, that role as the political leader of Grenada Empowerment Movement,
Hmm.
not to change the charity that I would have started, not to change the education that I would have started,
Hmm.
but to show even the normal Grenadian that his or her voice matters, no matter where he comes from. He does not have to be politically affiliated with the present administration now. He doesn't have to have $1 million. He doesn't have to know how to rob people or to deceive people, right? But what he has to do is just be a citizen with good intentions, because many times we have persons who believe that all politicians are corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you cannot blame them when you look at the persons who are in authority
Oh,
right now,
mm-hmm.
right? So you
They're
can't blame them.
examples.
Yeah, but even with that being said, there's a level of ignorance to that which I'm trying to get people out of, because everyone is not the same. Everyone is not the same. And if the good people continue to sit back and let corruption prevail,
Mm-hmm.
then we have no one but ourselves to blame. So I'm trying to show the people of Grenada, yes, there's victimization. Um, when you actually take a stand to do something that with morals, right? But how long can it last? It will not last forever. It is up to us to make changes. We cannot expect an individual such as the prime minister with a character such as his to look out for our best
Best interest.
interests,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So that's about it. Even with the Ministry of Labor, it's a clear failure again. That interview when you and I first met in Graham,
Yes.
um, it has also significantly changed my life. It has
Really?
taught me that there are so many persons who are innocent, and because of the corruption that exists within the system, many persons would be deprived. So many persons that we are seeing on the streets who might be unemployed or who goes thieving wherever, sometimes it's not up to them. Sometimes they feel like they have no hope. When you're actually wrongfully or unfairly dismissed from your job and you go to Cyrus Griffith, the labor commissioner, or Oliver Joseph, who was the previous minister of labor, or you go to Peter David, who is presently the minister of labor. And then we also have that character there, Lima Frederick, who is unfortunately the permanent secretary in labor. The way that they would speak to you, you would obviously give up. You would believe, if you're coming from a point that you don't understand what your rights are as a citizen, you would
Mm-hmm.
actually believe that you are going to beg them to do a favor, not knowing that they are obligated by the Employment Act of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
So the frustration of many citizens, um, including myself, sometimes it's not used in the best manner. And I like to encourage persons to use that frustration to motivate you to do positive things, to assist persons. Now, I have assisted many persons even since my demise as shop steward at the airport. I've assisted many persons who
Yes.
had labor problems and got through. So many of the challenges that we face as individuals, what would happen, it would actually guide us. It would actually teach us. It doesn't always have to result in negative. Sometimes the challenges will always be there. It will always be there. But what happens? It makes us conscious. So I now know that the persons, individuals are not to be blamed for many things that are happening in Grenada. It's the frustration, it's the injustice, it's the
Right.
refusal of service. It's really sad in Grant, really sad. But that is the situation. We spoke many times
Yes.
about what has happened at Silver Sands, where the
I
Minister
think.
of Physical Planning
Mm-hmm.
would have allowed a foreign investor to break the laws of Grenada. And then our minister, the Prime Minister, Keith Mitchell, would say to the people of Grenada on a public forum that the Silver Sands owner made a mistake, and he left it like that. But we have had situations over the years where some poor persons would have gone to the beach, they were unable to afford sand and so on, and they were charged and sometimes imprisoned for taking a bucket of sand off of the beach. So it shows, it really shows the perversion of justice in Grenada. Bias.
It's not
It
good.
really does. It's
So
shameful. It's a disgrace.
I just want to answer a question here by Patty Caribbean Williams. Did you read what she put there?
Oh, yes. No, a pleasant good afternoon to Nurse Patty Williams. You know, Nurse Patty Williams, I believe, should be seen as a national hero.
Okay.
She has been fighting a few years long battle at her workplace. She has taken a stand against many things that has happened, even over the COVID period. Nurse
Wow.
Patty Williams, um, for persons who might not remember, was injured whilst on duty at the Monge Hospital, and her two hands have been damaged since. And even with that being said, in a normal democratic country, someone who's working for the public service, for the government, someone who's providing such a critical service, when damaged on the job, they would be taken care of. But Nurse Patty had to actually go and do a motorcade and so on, trying to get these hands fixed because she
Wow.
was refused by the government, even though she was on duty at the Monge Hospital, and this is the mental hospital, the hospital that is for mental patients.
Yes.
So she was injured by someone who is not of sound mind. And based on my understanding, this party was the government took the position where they were trying to actually say that this party caused the injury. That is based on my understanding. So we are speaking about someone not of a sound mind. So
Good
we
on you.
have had many situations like that. No, without even trying to rectify the matter, the government refused. Those in authority refused. And it happened again where an ex-employee at the Monge Hospital was attacked by someone who was not of sound mind, twice after Nurse Party. But
Hmm.
what do we expect from a government who allowed our workers, our public workers, at the same Monge Hospital to have to walk through um, septic water, right? Water from a septic tank for over 2 years,
Hmm.
right? Where even persons who were going to visit family members who were housed there having to walk through septic water for 2 years. We had the unions having to get involved and so on. But what bothers me in Graham is that we are paying persons in the Ministry of Health to ensure that conditions like this do not
But,
exist in Grenada.
but how has this been allowed to happen over and over and over again? But you see, the same hand is involved in all this. The same hand is involved in all these matters.
It is. The same individuals from the Ministry of Health have officers who go around and inspect properties and so on. Now, if persons' properties might breed mosquitoes and so on, persons would be charged. They would be
Right.
brought to court if they refuse. But here we have a government facility, a government hospital, the Monge Hospital, where the government is allowed, the same Ministry of Health who is in charge, is allowed to have septic water running through the road down the hill for 2 years. And then the union has to get involved. But we are paying the Ministry of Health to ensure that this does not happen.
And
So it
how?
does show.
But the union is not going to fight against the government, are they?
No, well, usually they
They
don't.
should.
Yeah, they should. They should. But I have that simple issue with the union because I believe that we are already paying the Ministry of Labor to represent us.
Right.
We are paying the Ministry of Labor to represent us. But here we have to go back and pay a union, a separate body, to do the same duty, right? The the union uses the Employment Act of Grenada. It speaks about conditions on the workplaces and so on, right?
Mhm.
But this is the job of the Ministry of Labor as well. So what is happening in Graham, in my opinion, we are paying two different entities to do the same thing when it should be going out. It should stop at the Ministry of Labor if they were doing their jobs properly. When we speak about minimum wage and so on, this is already in the Employment Act of Grenada, where the Ministry of Labor has an obligation, the Labor Commissioner has an obligation every 3 years to direct whatever efforts to a minimum wage committee every 3 years. But we still have a situation where minimum wage is at an embarrassing low, $36 per day, $4.50 per hour, right? Now we have to go and pay additional funds to a union that does not represent us to do the same thing, to do whatever the Ministry of Labor is being paid to do. Now, Ingram, even with that being said, we have this gentleman who is in charge of the Trade Union Council. Um, what's his name again? Andre Lewis. You know, a next big disappointment. A big disappointment. He is also the senator in the House representing Labour. Very big disappointment. And I'm speaking again based on my experiences.
Mhm.
It has been 4 years now. Over
Wow.
4 years now. You know, they are aware of many problems. And they're basically doing nothing. It's all talk. We had, I believe it was sometime last year. The time has gone by so fast. The COVID has distorted the memory. But what has happened in Gram is that we have many persons in authority who would only speak words, but they do nothing. You know, they make empty promises. For instance, the teachers who were refused pensions were encouraged by unions to stay home. We had all the union leaders going into canteen with the teachers who directed the teachers and so on to not go to work, stay home. And they were told by these union heads that if the government was to deduct any monies from their salaries, they were going to escalate the matters and whatever the case is. But after that happened, after the government took out the monies, there's nothing. We're hearing nothing about what is happening. You know, I have gone to the trade union council's
Mhm.
office on many occasions. I have made appointments to see Andre Lewis,
Yep.
and he has refused. So I can imagine the number of persons who have been refused. It is very shameful. It is an unjust system. It
But
has been perverted
let me ask you a
by these
question.
individuals.
Do you believe a change of party
Mhm.
will change policy, or do you think it'll be the same old thing again?
What I would say, Ingram, you know, I have been asked this many times, and I would stick to the point where I believe unless the mindset of the people of Grenada, the voters, unless the mindset of the people changes, then it would remain the same. It might even get worse, you know.
Yes.
What we are seeing is that Keith Mitchell and his NNP regime, they have gotten comfortable, right? The people have allowed him to do whatever he wants when he wants. He's allowed to break the laws. We even have seen over the COVID period where um, this man came on to the media and he said that there have been persons, hoteliers, I believe, who tried to trick the system. They actually tried to exploit the government financially. And he then said that, you know, basically, we're going to let it slide. We're going to probably just give them a warning, whatever the case is. Now, if this was a normal man, right, what would have happened? Would he have been imprisoned for trying to defraud the government of Grenada? What would have happened? You know, so we even saw, as I said, you know, with Silver Sands, we have the prime minister making excuses for a man who has illegally built on Grandin's Beach for a man who has broken the Physical Planning Act. We have the Prime Minister acting as this man's defense lawyer, the Prime Minister of Grenada. Why doesn't he go and defend the persons? There was a lady who took some a bucket of sand off of the beach. Where was the prime minister when this lady was fined and confined? Where was he? Right? When there are so many persons whose backs are against the wall, where is the prime minister acting as a defense lawyer? Is it because Mr. Sovari is a billionaire, an Egyptian billionaire that we have? He has the finances to acquire Keith Mitchell as his defense lawyer. This is what is happening in Graham.
Mhm.
Um, it's very shameful, very shameful.
It's not good. It's not good at all. Um, so what? So all these things that happen in Grenada. Where would you say are the positives out of what you've done in Grenada for the Grenadians?
Okay, so
Excuse me a second.
and you pardon?
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I was able to start off with education, start off
Yes.
with a Big Brother program with the charity organization, going around, going to different houses, teaching people. Then I started counseling persons, children, mostly boys, who were having issues at their homes. I've done so much things in Grenada and Gram. I'm trying to think. I've done numerous motorcades for persons. I've assisted the Kidney Foundation, many individuals who are in need of finance for medical situations. I've assisted many persons who have labor problems, police brutality, police misconduct. I assist persons there as well, persons with land disputes and so on. You name it in Gram, I have done it. I
So
continue to do it.
how much help and how much support do you get doing what you do? Are you alone? Do you have a team?
Mhm. So what I would say, I have noticed that the people of Grenada, although they are overworked and underpaid, which would make them financially embarrassed in most cases, when we have motorcades and we speak about the sensitive issues where the Grenadians need to come together to assist someone who has a kidney problem or someone who
Yes.
has to do surgery. Many persons come forward in Gram when we are doing the motorcades. Even in the poorest of homes and the poorest of villages, we see persons actually running out. We have persons on the side of the road who might be selling some skin up and so on. They're given $5, $10, but imagine in Gram. Let us imagine that, someone actually is on the side of the road. They don't have like a stable job, whatever it is, and they're selling a bit of fruits or whatever it is. That is a big sacrifice. It's a
Yeah.
big sacrifice. So I would say that although they are not officially a part of GEM, I
Mhm.
still consider all these people a part of my team, right? The Grenadian team, because without them, we would not be able to achieve the things that we have achieved before. Without the assistance of persons who are not officially in GEM,
Yeah.
without them providing the backup and speaking about dialysis machines, maybe Nicholas Steele would have never spoken about it if many Grenadians did not come on board and say, listen, we need dialysis machines at the hospital. So I would say that the team is big. It's 110,000 strong, although they're not officially part of GEM. So I do appreciate the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique for that. Um, the official members on the team, it's very small. It's very small. Sometimes it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, especially because I do all the work basically. There's nothing that I don't get involved in. And the saying goes, when you want something done right, you try to do it yourself. I'm not saying that they're not capable, but that's how I have been brought up, to
Yeah. Of
start
course.
something and make sure that I finish it,
You,
or
you
at least,
you do it
try,
yourself.
work
You
on it.
do it yourself to make sure you
Yeah,
want something
yeah,
done. Do it
yeah,
yourself.
yeah, yeah,
So, so where you are at the moment, what if you could ask the Grenadian public
mhm,
in terms of assistance or for getting support, what would you
Mhm.
say to them?
What I would tell the people, I would tell the people, you know, in order to get the changes that we need, all the things that we need, we cannot remain silent. We cannot remain silent on matters that affect any person. If it affects one person negatively, we have to speak about it. We do not have to wait until it happens to us or a family member, right? So I would ask them to speak. I would ask them to be selfless, right? To be compassionate, to be empathetic. This is what we need to make changes in Grenada, to make changes in the system. We currently have an asylum seeker at Her Majesty's prison. Right now, I am very disappointed in the one of the the longest serving opposition parties. Right, that is the NDC. We have an asylum seeker at Her Majesty's prison. It
Mm-hmm.
was brought to the forefront by Attorney at Law Herestia Willis. It was raised by myself, it was raised by you. Now, this asylum seekers incarceration has affected persons in Grenada. It has now given the persons in authority this false sense that they can incarcerate any person at any time without any repercussions, without any explanation. Now,
Grenada, as I read the other day, Grenada's a law unto themselves. It's the only one in that group of the in the Caribbean that doesn't have a law.
mhm,
That's Grenada are still not in partnership with the UN or in agreement
mhm,
with the UN or following the UN's advisory or
uh-huh.
advice on refugee law or asylum seekers. So at the moment, Grenada is a law unto their own self. The other only island in that Caribbean band that has not got the refugee law or the asylum seeker law. So I believe Washington, the UN, is at Washington. They have to intervene and get involved.
Yeah, Ingram, I'm sorry about that. I lost you there.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
lost you there. But yeah, I believe I understand. I got the essence of what you were saying. Yes, Grenada has been advised by the UN to implement asylum laws because it has recognized over the years that many persons would be using Grenada, which is a strategic point to get
yes,
on to different locations to
yes,
seek asylum.
yeah.
We as a people also have to remember that one day in that prison facility is too much. Even 1 hour being incarcerated there, it's too much. I can only imagine the mental destruction of individuals who are up there. But we have to also remember that there are many Grenadians who have gone to greener pastures. America, Canada, sometimes Trinidad, Barbados, you name it, anywhere in the world, Canadians
Yeah.
have gone. Basically, for what continues to happen here in Grenada, there's a lack of opportunity unless you are politically affiliated. And at this time, unless you are politically affiliated with the NNP or the Prime Minister, then you lack a lot of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So, Ingram, so people need to consider that, our family members who may be caught by ICE or so on, we see what the president of America is doing. We
Yes,
family member who's caught by ICE, and we need our government to speak on their behalf, or even the foreign affairs minister, who's unfortunately Peter David, with a character such as his. It's very questionable, hard to comprehend how he even got into that seat. But persuasion and say to the people in government, listen, we would not like our people to be treated like this. We would like our Grenadian citizen to be returned to us, whatever the case is. No, they have shown the world how they are going to treat an asylum seeker, a Ghanaian asylum seeker. Before that, the Cameroon. Cameroonian asylum seeker who was held at Her Majesty, sorry, at Central Police Station, right? Very, very disturbing the conditions that he faced. Very disturbing what he reported about the officers, right? We had some professionals there, police officers, who he has claimed were singing songs, taunting him about being sent to Her Majesty's prison before Miss Rolanda McQueen and Miss Heresia Willis got involved in the matter. It's very shameful to see that this is where we are in 2020, that we cannot depend on the Public Service Commission or the Ombudsman's Office or the Integrity Commission.
So what is
You
the
know,
what's the response of the people in power in Grenada as to why they have not followed up on the advice of the UN with regards to the asylum seeker or regards to refugees? And they've said that more asylum seekers and more refugees will come to Grenada.
so in that is a very good question. Why have they not accepted the recommendations? That is a very good question. Now, I am aware that there have also been recommendations that were made by international and regional bodies, even for the election process in Grenada, but it has not been accepted. I am aware that there have been international and regional bodies who have made recommendations about the health system in Grenada, but it
Mm-hmm.
has not been accepted. There have been persons, including myself, who continue to make recommendations for almost every failing department that we have here, public department, and it has not been accepted. So Ingram, what I would say, I cannot speak to the mindset of these corrupt individuals, to place myself in such a position of their
Oh,
perception of what
too much.
life is, it's virtually impossible. It is impossible because I'm nothing like them, so it would be hard to say why. But if I had to take a guess, I would possibly say that, they probably believe that the more problems we have in Grenada, the more finances that they can collect, right? I would possibly think so. When we have persons just going to the UN meetings, and as we were speaking about the Grenadian Human Rights Organization on the Milton Coin, now I understand
What
that
Milton?
he
Wait,
submits.
Milton Coy's under human rights.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Milton McCoy, who used to work,
Milton Coin.
the one who used to work at the Grenada Trade Center or the radio station, and used to do the
Ingram, hold on. Yeah, Ingram, sorry about that.
It's
So
okay.
Milton Coy, um, no, he Ingram, hold on. Yeah, Ingram, sorry about that.
Right.
We actually doing a project for a lady St. Andrews who has 3 children,
Yeah.
and the housing condition there is terrible. So a guy just came and checked my he's actually doing a list for me of the material that is needed and so on. So let me again apologize, for to the viewers and so on, but that is important as well. So
Okay.
saying,
Understood.
Ingram, we have Mr. Milton Coy, who is in charge, who's the head of the Grenada Human Rights Organization. Now, many persons would look at the condition the status of human rights in Grenada and wonder what is really happening. Do people really know what is happening in Grenada? And the answer is no, and I would have to blame Mr. Coy and whoever else assist him in writing up human rights
I'll
reports
have
and
to.
submit it.
I'll have to have a conversation with Mr. McCoy because me and Mr. McCoy go back a few years when I was on the island of
Coy,
Grenada. He had,
Milton
yeah,
Coy, not McCoy. Coy, Coy is the
not
last
McCoy,
name.
the same, a
Yeah,
tall,
yeah,
skinny, dark-skinned gentleman.
yes,
Thin.
yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
yes.
He used to work at Grenada. He was doing the media for at one point. He
Yes,
used
that
to
is
be,
that is the gentleman. No, that gentleman in he submits on behalf of the people of Grenada human rights reports to the United Nations.
I would like to have
Now,
let's have a little
it,
conversation with Mr. McCoy, Mr. Coy, I
yeah,
think.
yeah. So I was going to tell you, if you don't waste your time too much, unless you're going to try to educate them as what he should be doing. Don't waste your time too much. Now,
No, I think we should.
imagine.
I think
Im-
if we ask people these questions, they're in positions of
uh-huh,
power. We ask the question, what is this process? Even if we're going to ask him what the process is and how the process, not to antagonize, we'll ask him, okay, so this is your role. What does it mean? What are your
mhm,
responsibilities?
mhm,
And then if I've got a problem with or if I've got a human rights issue,
mhm.
what happens? And then what's the success rate after what you've done? So I'm just asking the question. I would not, I'm not
I
going
would,
to.
I would, and in Ram, I speak purely on experience and knowledge.
I hear
I,
your frustration, but we're still going
yeah,
to give them the chance to speak. I
uh-huh,
mean, it. I understand totally where you're at.
yeah. As I was saying, we have human rights reports that are coming out of Grenada, which are submitted, which are created, which are written by Milton Coy. And what is happening is it's surprising to see that we have had so many deaths at the hands of police, even before 2013. But we have had Mr. Claudius St. Paul, who whose body I am told was dumped in a dam in Palmas by police officers after they beat him to death. This was brought to the attention of Mr. Coy, but it was never reported. I actually understand that Mr. Coy is being paid by the United Nations to secure the human rights of individuals. I understand that. When we get him on the program, we should really ask him to confirm or deny whether he's being paid by the United Nations for human rights in Grenada. But when we look, we don't even have to go into the corners or the creases. We don't even have to raise stones to see what is happening on it. It's right there in our faces. The
Yes.
conditions of human rights in Grenada is nothing but an embarrassing tragedy. When we go to the hospital and we consider the human right of having access to a proper healthcare system, or we look at the police and we look at the numerous victims that we have who are being
Errors.
beaten by police officers, persons who have been shot.
Yes.
We really do have to wonder what is happening here in Grenada. What is
We have a
happening?
lawless land. It seems that we have a lawless land. It would seem, it would appear we have a lawless land.
What we do. You know, as I said in Ram, um, I am not here to bash anyone. I'm here to speak the truth.
Hmm.
We have had discussions about the way forward. There's an organization that was started even before my time, which is called the Civils considers themselves as the civil society organization, which Mr. Coy is a part of. Now, there have been so many breaches in the law that it's not funny. There have been so many persons mistreated and so on, which is not funny. But what I'm seeing from the civil society, they pick and choose what they speak about. Right? If we're dealing with injustice, we deal with injustice. We do not have to wait until 50,000 people are affected. One life is as important, it's equally important, right? So it is shameful, as you would be aware, I'm sure, in the interviews of attorney at law Hercia Willis, she would have said that, you know, there's no one really speaking or assisting her with the asylum seeker. Where is civil society? Where is the Grenada Human Rights Organization? They were contacted, they were informed. What has happened? Nothing. Nothing has happened.
Yes,
Very embarrassing.
we'll have to keep posted on that. Okay, so we just gonna wrap up now. Earl, in terms of how do people contact you, or how do people get to know more about the Grenada Empowerment Movement in this situation? Where do they go? Where do they look for you? How can they get in contact with you?
Right. So the Grenada Empowerment Movement can be contacted on Facebook. There's a page on Facebook where I can be contacted. There's also the contact number 458-9092. You can send an email to GEMINC 2010 at hotmail.com. You could look at us here through Grenada Matters. We do a show on the injustices which every Monday, and we have been getting changes from the government. We have been highlighting and providing solutions. There are many times that persons would say, you know, why is it that you're just speaking about the problems and you're not highlighting solutions? You're not giving them. You know, sometimes solutions are so obvious. They are so obvious they do not have to be given. For
Stop doing what
instance,
you're doing. Stop doing what you're
yeah,
doing.
yeah, it's as simple as that. Now, if one is to say that there's a pothole in the road which can cause an accident, I do not have to provide a solution stating that the
Yeah,
pothole should be fixed. I believe that is so obvious, you know. So there are certain things that are too obvious to speak about. When we speak about police brutality, however, Ingram and I would say that we need an independent body to investigate police officers. We would
absolutely.
also say we need body cameras on officers. We need
Hey,
to install cameras in stations.
people. Some people just like you, but you know, some people like the sound of their voice. But when you
Yes,
ask them
that is
for real
correct.
solutions, when you ask them for real solutions, they ain't got none.
That is correct. That is correct.
So you know,
Yeah. Yeah. So, we're here. Um, we're here. We're representing the people. If anyone is interested in joining or becoming a part of the Grenada Empowerment Movement officially, send me a message. We could sit and talk and have a discussion. As I said, um, there's nothing about being here to come and bash anyone. I'm being realistic. The truth sometimes is it's unfriendly, it's ugly. But the truth is the truth. I'm not here to cushion anything for anyone, because what happens, it would continue. It is not my job to cushion that persons are facing.
right.
If persons want that to happen, that's them. But I don't believe in paying taxes and looking at these perversions continuing and speaking softly about them. So,
Okay.
Ingram, it has been good.
It's been a
It
great. It's
has
been a
been
great
good.
even talking to you. It's been great talking to you this evening, and I think it's great for people to get to know who you are, apart from just calling you the co-host and the man behind the power and Grenada Empowerment Movement. People know a lot more about you, which is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Agreed, agreed.
So,
So
and now we
yeah,
have Miss Erica Willis is going to be doing the attorney at law show as well. So that's
yeah,
a great
yeah.
addition to the show to us as well, isn't it?
And that is said to you. There are many persons who do not understand the law. There are many persons who do not understand that they have rights as
Yes,
taxpayers.
yes.
That's why they believe, it's a favor when the minister comes around every 4 years during the election to come and drop off a $50 and a green jersey with a glow stick to come to a political rally. They believe it's a favor. So once we have persons like yourself and Miss Willis speaking on the laws and so on, I'm sure that the rights would be brought up. I would be examined, and persons can get to the understanding that, I'm a human being. I have been born with rights.
Yes.
according to the Universal Declaration of human rights, and things would, I believe, drastically change from the person's from the position where the person did not know what was happening. Yeah,
Okay. So,
yeah.
Earl,
My
thank you,
brother,
thank
yes,
you so
my brother.
much. I believe you've got a big set 10 too. Oh, we will leave it right there.
Yeah,
Earl Maitland of Grenada Matters and, of course, Grenada Empowerment Movement, thank you so much again for being on the show.
yes, no problem. Thank you, brother. I know it's late. Take care. God bless.
God bless you too,
All
brother.
right,
You take care and have a
all
good night.
right. Take care. All right.